All right. I mean, when I first read this story, but this was my first time listening to the sound, but I read the story on my joyonline.com, and my first thought was, okay, who is he? Whose attention is he drawing to this matter? Well, I mean, there are a couple of answers to that question. First of all, tertiary institutions in this country, at least universities, to my knowledge, have a certain amount of autonomy when it comes to determining one, what programs to offer, and two, what the content of those programs will be. So yes, there is a need for tertiary institutions to be a bit more alive to the needs of the market and ensure that they are preparing graduates to fulfill those needs. There is also perhaps a need for industry to be a bit more clear and accurate about what they need. So if, for example, at the moment we're trying to push planting for food and jobs, right? So what are the needs of people who are in agribusiness, whether it is storage and transportation of fresh foods, or what are the gaps? Where is there a lack of know-how or technology? Who is communicating it? Okay, but most importantly for me, at the center of all this sits the policymaker, because instead of sitting back and hoping that people will come and give you information, you ought to, especially if you've identified the problem, you ought to be able to go out there and start seeking solutions by bringing people together. So I wondered who the education minister was communicating to, if he is not going to be the one that takes the lead in plugging this gap. But maybe we'll start, Ray, from the question of why the content of our degree programs, at least, and he mentions diplomas as well, so let's add those. Why is it that the content of our tertiary programs are producing people who have no job waiting for them?
So, first, the question should be whether or not university education is supposed to make you innovation ready or job market ready. That question, if it's answered properly, then you proceed to now, because if you do not question why university education exists in the first place, and this one, he's making reference to university education, so then you get it wrong completely. University education, as has always been the case, do not train, and some people are trained, and people should separate the two. They are professional courses in universities. So the Institute for Professional Studies, now UPSA, in fact now Opoko and Poma UPSA, for a very long time had specialized in training accountants and related courses. Again, the GIJ, a tertiary institution, had specialized in training people in journalism, communication, PR, and related courses. Some engineering schools across the country had equally specialized, including the college, specialized in training people for specific roles.
There's the Design and Technology Institute.
Brilliant. There are also schools that actually train nurses, tertiary institutions. There are medical schools. If you went to University of Ghana and did biological science, the hope was that you may end up in the medical school or any of these science-related fields, or choose an alternative. In fact, we used to smile those and say that it is only science students that could switch to arts courses. The other way was very difficult to happen unless you actually went through another process. So if you get the foundation or the reason why university education exists wrong, you may be tempted to think that every person who goes to a university is being trained for a particular job. That is not the case. There are also some of the courses, predominantly in liberal arts, which is not necessarily training you to be. So, for example, if you did political science, the expectation is not that tomorrow you're a political scientist. I hope you get my point. The expectation is that by the rigors of education within 4 or 3 years, you would have gone through a process that makes you fit into a society and be able to contribute meaningfully in varied forms. So, Jofi Grant did psychology at the University of Ghana, first degree. Jofi Grant is not a clinical psychologist today. He's not in any way related to the fields that we're talking about, but who says, and I've heard him explain that at the Central Cafeteria of Legon, how relevant the elements he learned in psychology was in his investment banking field. And how it helped him in the process. And how other courses he did, even in the school, helped out. Kojo? So I think that ought to be clarified because this debate has gone on for far too long. I agree schools can help out. I remember when we were in level 100, a course was started by the late Dr. Boame. Entrepreneurship. We were shocked because, I mean, entrepreneurship for a science student, yeah, it didn't sound like a very interesting one. But the idea was that you needed to pick some of these things. That's why a science student later on, when they introduced the university required courses, was expected to also learn a bit of language study skills, academic writing. That's why a science student was taught African studies. And our students had to do some basic statistics and other things combined to the courses they are doing with the hope that you gather skills relevant in different areas so that when you step out of school, you can apply them meaningfully elsewhere. If the minister's reference is that when you name a course as engineering, it should prepare you fully to become an engineer and fit into Mechanical Lloyd or any of those companies, I may say, okay, well, let's debate that. Let's see whether the course standards and structure itself is built to deliver that. So there used to be a conversation that there is a vacuum between academia and industry on what industry wants on the ground and what academia is producing. So the JRG graduate today, will they be able to fit into a newsroom? And I'm insisting that if you move from City FM to Joy FM today, you may not necessarily fit into a newsroom. Writing styles are different, the standards are different, and even the engagements are required. The skills you need, even though fundamentally you may be required and you may be good enough, are also different. So what I'm driving at is, we should look at it from the perspective, why does the universities produce the kind of courses they do? And I am one of those who's consistently of the opinion that upgrades are needed. Sometimes teaching materials are outdated. Sometimes the research skills are not so up to date. Even the teaching skills might not be the very best if you compare to others elsewhere. But to merely conclude that certain courses should not or cannot be taught because they do not have modern market value is to presume that everybody who is being trained for a certain market. I hope you get the point. For example, how about the guy whose business is to just have a PhD in philosophy? Which market really were you trying to see that he will be trained into after his very degree?
Academia.
So part of the flaw here is that the education minister believes that when you walk out of a tertiary institution, you should walk into a job.
Oh yes,
Right.
so you should be qualified to start work the day.
But that's a feature of an expanding economy.
Not of the
If your economy is not expanding enough to employ these young ones, they won't get employment. Okay, and so we'll start saying, oh, they are not letting the right courses in our schools and
shifting
all
the
of that.
goalposts, yeah.
Let me be very honest with you, and anybody who's gone through the university system and studied the humanities will tell you that your critical thinking ability is being developed
Yeah.
so that when you leave, now you learn research skills, how to analyze, so that when you leave, you can fit in society and you can fit in diverse places.
To the extent that schools, some even isolated critical thinking as a course to be studied differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, the other challenge is this, and I went to Cardiff University. When I went to Cardiff University had actually designed a course for us, MA International Journalism. Are you aware that with the MA International Journalism, if you finished, you couldn't practice in the UK? However, if you have to practice in the UK, you'd have to go through a 6-month period of internship. However, the postgraduate diploma in journalism, which was still being done at the university, had an internship component and everything that trained people for the UK market. Sometimes people even mount courses. I mean, let's be very clear here. Accounting, for instance, is a professional course. You can go to the university, but you still would need professional certification. So people actually use the university courses or university program as a stepping stone to get even exemptions and go and write the professional courses. But having said that, my key question is, does the minister know the courses under the programs he was talking about?
Maybe very relevant.
I mean, because if the minister knew the courses, and I have checked, he would not make some of these comments. Because I have seen BA education at the University of Ghana, English. The only problem is that they didn't do a Bachelor of Education,
Okay.
Arts. At the University of Cape Coast, you see Bachelor of Education, Arts. Bachelor of Education, Social Science. Bachelor of Education, Social Studies. Here you see Bachelor of Arts Education, then you have English there, for instance. Anybody who studied English will tell you that one of the key courses needed to teach English effectively is error and contrastive analysis. The University of Ghana actually runs teaching of English as a second language. What is that for? Teaching of English as a foreign language is actually one learning to go and teach. Because you're going to be learning areas of difficulty, areas of similarities, and how you can help somebody understand English. In the past, we talked about university education being universal education. You acquiring the skills to enable you fit into different environments. One of our best finance ministers was Yawa Safo-Mafo, who studied engineering at the University of Science and Technology at the time. Went to work in a bank, rose to become finance minister, at a point the world's best finance minister. The problem...
I'm just adding that our longest serving was a law professor. He never did economics.
Yes.
He never did finance. Professor Kwesi Boche.
The late.
Completely.
The challenge with Yao Ose Educhum is that at every instance, he's talking about what has to be done. And in most of cases, never gets done. GTech, that gives accreditation for the courses under the Education Ministry. If he had any problem, the first port of call will be GTech. And this is the point. Before universities get courses accredited, they would show the content to GTech.
Reviewed and accepted.
It will be reviewed and accepted. So you know, for instance, these are the courses you're mounting. Under every course, you will describe the content that you want to teach the students. So yes, we can have challenges with education. Because, for instance, if you have too many students in a class, all things being equal, the lecturer would not have attention for all students. When we're doing our master's program, we're 89 in the class. But listen to this. The lecturers had time to meet everybody. Sometimes he dedicates a whole week. So he's giving you an assignment. He meets everybody for 10 minutes. The 10 minutes that you get there, before you get there, he's handing over your script that you've submitted, not the final script, your script to you. He looks at it and says, these are the corrections I have seen in here. He would take you through them and say, you have to do this and that and that and that and that to make it acceptable. By the time you leave, your lecturer has spent 10 minutes with you. Do we do same in this country? Not in all the instances I've seen. Hardly do we do that.
Because I teach a class of 1,000 people.
You cannot do that. So instead of us beginning to blame, what courses are we teaching? We need to focus on developing that critical thinking skills that we're talking about. And so instead of having classes that accommodate 1,000 students and one lecturer, and so because he cannot mark the script, he gives them objectives and then sits down and marks, we should actually be thinking about how we can employ more teachers or lecturers. I am not a fan of if you don't have physical structures in this modern era, it is not a problem. After all, if you plan very well, you can have students going through the lectures without necessarily showing up in the classrooms or what have you. So, Dr. Osedochum, these things, they do it when we are in a campaign season. These things, we do it when we're in opposition. When you are put in power, they say solve the problems. Then every day you have joined us to complain. Every time Dr. Educhom is making another promise, every time we are building STEM education, every time we are doing this, we are doing this, and our education is this. But as we speak, the curriculum, the textbooks, they are now so they started distributing the textbooks.
Years into rolling out
Years
the
into
program.
it. We are still promising that we are going to do. Look, let us stop that. Let us begin to focus on things that would create quality education. Because I have seen, when I was at the University of Cape Coast, that we had, on a course, if you had about 200 and something students on a course, they were split into 3 groups. So every lecturer could walk into the class, point at you, and say, you answer my question, because he knows you. He sees you in his class all the time. I've seen times that Mr. Gogovi had saw someone and said, are you also in this class? That's on the lighter note. The guy's like, yes. He says, no, I have never seen you here before. He says, oh, this is my first time. He said, okay, you have just told me you cannot sit for my exam, because if you miss 9 credit hours, you can't sit for the exam.
Yeah.
The point is that instead of, packing too many students on a course, that's something we can do. But today, go to UDS and go and check their education courses. There are MPhil even in education. That's something that is done.
Have you guys interacted with a lot of young people, especially those who graduate from senior high? A lot of them really don't know what they want to do. People go to the universities. Sometimes others will have to help them choose courses. It's because they really don't know what to do. So I've been thinking about
Being boxed right from the beginning.
yeah. If I don't know what to do, I have an idea. I want to experience something before I finally choose. I think we need more opportunities for students to do practical internship. Winston shared about somebody who eventually ended up doing nursing, but got an opportunity after senior high to do internship in a media organization. We need a lot more of those things so that the children would be able to understand what it is that they eventually want to do. But I'm not sure about going to the university straight away and doing psychology, finishing psychology and going to do something directly related to psychology, something that's called psychological something. When
Becoming a clinical psychologist after that.
When people want to specialize, there's AUCC,
Yes.
you mentioned GIJ, there's AUCC. We need a lot more of these institutions so that once I am done, I can then say, oh, I want to do communications. So let me get into a school directly that trains me in what I want to do. I have seen the University of Ghana and Toyota collaborating. I think it's the
They have some
School of
engineering.
Engineering.
Yes.
We need more of those so that those who want to specialize, they know exactly what they want to do. They can get connected to industry, because there's a big gap between still industry and academia. Students are not connected. So I don't know, and this is the education minister who is sounding like the way we should be sounding. I'm not sure.
Having listened to all of you, something is now occurring to me. In any other part of the world, what you do in the university is a matter of demand and supply, right? Once you've qualified to be in the university, you choose the program that you want to do. It's not based on whether someone has a job waiting out there for you or not. Not everybody is going to school to become an employee, right? So maybe somebody wants to come out of university and start a business, selling chicken feathers. There has to be a program in the university that will prepare him for that business.
That's true.
Now, in this country, is there any job that doesn't have a relevant first degree that can prepare people for that job, whether eventually or immediately? Is there any such job in this country? Maybe astronaut or something like that, where I can say we don't have any first degree. But even astronauts, there are first degrees that will set you on the path to becoming an astronaut. Engineering is one of them.
There's one of them, aeronautical engineering.
Thank you.
It's one of the courses,
So-
I remember.
so-
I think that's Kenya University.
Yes.
So there is really no job that you can imagine that there isn't a suitable first degree that will prepare you to enter that field. The problem is that you can't get into that program. That's the problem. Either there aren't enough spaces in the university, or the decision making about which program you end up doing is not entirely up to you.
Not at all.
In fact,
it is
being
grade
kind.
dependent.
I am being kind.
Now,
And
if
saying
you're
it's
lucky,
not entirely up to you. Because sometimes you can get the top grades, but there are far too many people with top grades.
People
So
wanted
you
to
still
do
don't get
medicine.
in.
They couldn't get admission.
Uh-huh.
They had to end up doing pharmacy or chemistry or something else.
Precisely. So it should not be a problem
Or
that
food
someone
science, yeah.
goes
Food
to
science and political science.
So it should not be a problem that someone goes to university and says, I want to do dondology. It's not a problem. You can't criticize the dondology program.
Yeah.
Because the person has a path in his mind, what he wants to do in life.
School of Performing Arts.
Yes, you can't criticize the program that there are no jobs waiting. Who told you that he wants to?
And the same people complain that their movie industry is not good enough. We do not have enough very good actors and all of that.
The point is, who told you that the person who chose that course chose it because he wants to walk out of the university
And go and
into
be an
someone's
actor?
employ? So how do you assess the value of that program based on whether or not there is a job on the other end of it? How do you assess the value of that? It's an academic program. You ought to be able to choose any program that will help you further your personal goals.
Exactly.
You see? But because in this country our education system doesn't help you further your personal goals, it is just, some you must move from one stage to the next. So if you come, these are the available options. Pick one.
By parity of reasoning, if we take what we are being told serious, it means that we should clear almost 90% of the courses that are currently being taught in the next 10 years. When there's advancements in artificial intelligence and all of the other things, most of the courses that are not going to give you direct jobs, I'm saying that 97% of them, they will be cleared out because there will be alternatives. You may not need it in the first place. In the US, for example, today, do not pay is competing with lawyers on legal advice. It's an AI. It's a very nice, interesting AI, but it's competing heavily with lawyers and legal advice. In fact, some time ago, having a big library was important, but just having something like Westlaw, it's almost like your library, your laptop. You don't need to go to the Oxford Library to do anything there. It's akin to that. If we are reimagining education, I'm for it 100%. And if that's what the minister is talking about. But this tired, not so evolved thinking about education cannot be the way policymakers think.
You see, Raymond, let me just make this point. Look, when I was reading English, I knew I wanted to be a journalist. So I decided to go and study semantics. Okay, as an elective. You want to understand meaning. Because I knew I wanted to be a journalist, I decided as part of my liberal courses to choose resource perception and management. You wanted to understand what will make something a resource and the resistances you have to overcome in order to exploit that resource. I love history, and I did historical foundations of Africa.
And you didn't want to be a journalist because your father was?
Or maybe because of that. Or maybe I had a passion for it.
But eventually.
I am. So I knew what I wanted to be, and I was doing just that. Okay. At the point, I would have loved to add French to it, but after level 200, I realized that if I add French and English, I'll struggle.
French, dear.
So I focused on my English, and I graduated. Here I am. I am sure the majority of the students who know what they want to do chose courses. Yes, sometimes you may be given a course you didn't choose, but once you get into the system, you know what you can become, even with what you're currently doing.
If you read Mensah's book about the course that she really wanted to do, when she wanted to teach, criminal law was not really what she was interested in.
Yes.
You construe an alternative plan for her and put her in a different field. The expertise that she's known for today, criminal law, is not in anywhere near where her original interest in law was actually.
There was a gap.
Yeah.
And she was called to step in.
Yeah.
And it became. Yeah, but I want to draw the minister's attention to the fact that a lot of the secondary schools are not eating right. The fundamentals are shaky. We're talking about university.
Right.
But if you went to Presec, do you know that your student currently, since reopening, they are also drinking porridge with no sugar?
I thought this was a
No
Maui
bread.
school problem.
Yeah, it's not just a
Maui
Maui school
school,
problem.
Tom Brown without sugar and
It is
bread.
also a Presec Legon problem.
My colleagues who have kids in Ogasco are saying the same thing. But you see, the teacher, go and try and interview a teacher right now.
You give them
and see whether they will be able to go and try
Drinking
and,
cocoa with no sugar.
yeah, free SHS.
You should
you
check.
go and try and interview a head teacher today on this topic and see if they will speak to you.
No sugar, no bread for breakfast.
No culture of silence. All right, you will come to that. We'll have to have a whole show about that. Today, let's try and deal with tertiary education and the problems therein, okay? I want to bring in all of you. Why don't you call us? I'm very interested in your thoughts on this. First of all, what program did you do? Why did you choose it? Was it because you were looking for a particular job at the other side of it? And did your program prepare you for that particular job? Or did you have a different ambition? Why did you choose it? Was it chosen for you? Did you end up in the class by default? I mean, talk to us. Help us understand your experience. Let's put it alongside the concerns of the education minister and see whether we are all singing from the same hymn sheet. Do we even know what jobs are out there in the job market?
Yeah.
Where is our national development
that's
plan?
a good question.
Which would have told us that you need more
Yeah.
engineers, or you need more scientists, or you need more cleaners. Right? So listen, let me put out the numbers first. 0302 216 541 or 055 1111 997. Okay, look, I ended up doing BMS at the University of Cape Town, Bachelor of Management Studies. It was a brand new course.
It's not
I
dancing.
saw that lots and lots of nice young people were going to apply for it.
Of
I had the
course.
option of doing either that or BCom. I looked at the people and thought I'll have more fun with these ones, and I joined them.
The motivation is
Look
very
at the
important.
reason exactly. So I wasn't thinking about which one will give me a job at the
Yeah.
other end of it. I didn't want to become a manager or an administrator or whatever. That was not my goal, right? But I knew that this is my first degree. All I need to do is learn a few things, critical thinking, a few skills, and I should be able to find my way in the market. After all, Ben is in Adenta. Ben, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Coach.
It's been a while, eh?
How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Happy New Year to you, Ben.
Yeah, happy New Year. And I'm just loving the discussion. And I think that you should record this, on Facebook or wherever.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yes, you should point the minister, if he has a Twitter account, share the link more than 100 times on that Twitter space for him. We have people in this country who know next to nothing. They tell us they are from US, they build schools, they build this, and they just talk. You just mentioned something. GTech is there, approving the program. If you feel that these programs are not the ones that are supposed to be there, what do you do as the minister? Because they are under you. It's because it's plainly just playing. All the courses in our universities are very important. If you take a look at psychology and all those programs that they do, they are all very important. But oftentimes we hear that, these things are not important, let's talk about STEM. Who told you that those who work in artificial intelligence, they don't need somebody who understands English like Western Amwa to even write? Microsoft, look at all the tutorials that we have. People write, good English, impeccable. Google, the same. So if you tell me that you go and read them, it doesn't make any sense. Then it tells you how to say. They just complain. And industry would also not want to employ. And I find it laughable when people are not employing our graduates. Some of them are even employed and they don't pay them well, they underpay them, and then they blame the graduates. How? Everywhere in this world, people are given internships. And you rightly mentioned, even if you move from City FM and then you come to Joy FM, you most definitely will have to understudy for a week or two. Yeah. And I was even surprised, some of your colleagues at City FM were even lambasting the Ghanaian of Journalism last time about the kind of graduates that they're producing, but they are not giving the graduate opportunities to practice. If you go to our universities, unless of course you have virtual reality or an environment where the students are going to do simulation. There's something called simulation today, where you create a whole workplace for them to go from 8 to 5, and the robots are telling them what to do as like a normal workplace. Anybody who comes from anywhere in this world, you need some form of tutoring, especially in industry, before you can even gain ground, just as accounting you guys mentioned. After school, you still must get certification to be a professional and all of that. So why are we not focusing on this? And so I think that from the way the education minister is talking, he should resign. If you go to Harvard, even MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, they are doing psychology, right? Yeah. And sometimes when I hear the people my taxes are paying and the way that they speak, I'm like, wow, these people are being paid my taxes. This is not fair to us. Those who should kick them out. Can we demonstrate against these inept people who just come to tell us problems instead of solving problems? Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's stay in Adenta. Here's Kweku. Hi, Kweku. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for calling us, Kweku. Yeah.
Look, yes, let me go straight to my point. Look, the most single and important thing said this morning is by Mamazi. Give us food. Give us food. Manslow said it. Manslow said, if your stomach is empty, you can't think and you can't work. Kojo, you need food to function this morning. Feed the students. Feed the textbook. Give them a serene atmosphere. Then the tertiary can follow. The Bible said if the foundation is weak, they went to Yale, they went to Harvard. Were they kept hungry? They should stop the too much talk. Oh. They should stop the too much talk. They give us a break. We are tired.
Thank you, Kweku. Thank you so much for calling. Bishop is in Asante Mampong. Bishop, Happy New Year to you. Long time.
Long time. Please greet Winston for me.
I will.
Do you know something? I will give you something that happened in GES some time ago. I did BA psychology in UCC, and my major teaching subject is English. Gogovi, Victor Yanka, and co, they taught me.
Yeah. The late
and
Dr. Victor Yanka.
When we completed and were posted, some of my colleagues, fortunately, I was posted to the College of Education. All colleagues who were posted to secondary schools, later on, they told them that they should leave the secondary school. They are not qualified to teach in the secondary school. Meanwhile, this is where they have major courses. Some have majored in English, mathematics, science, and what have you. And they are qualified. And they did methods of teaching in secondary schools and training colleges. And GES directors will say they should leave the secondary schools. It is not you are in the GES that you know everything. Why not collaborate with the universities and know their course structure? Learning, not seminars. You learn until you're deaf. So if you don't know, why not go to them and learn? So I had the opportunity to call the then Dean of Faculty of Education, Professor Opare. He's now on retirement, and I think he's at Privy University. And told him that this is what is happening to some of our colleagues. They've redeployed them to come to the basic school, to GES head office and the rest. And some of them went for further studies. And they were those directors who redeployed them at Sandwich at the university. And they were applied at the university to teach. You say you don't need them in a secondary school, but they are now teaching you people to come and be directors and to implement policies. So the thing is that it's a whole lot of mess in the Ghana Education Service.
Yeah.
Wow. They don't know. They should learn.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you for calling. Oh, look, it's Auntie Ya from Odoko. Auntie Ya, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. To you too.
Oh, Kodo, thank you. Although I'm studying.
You are?
Just a simple word for the education minister. Tell him they are rather creating the unemployment and they are the problem. So they need to go back to school, not to the table. They should go back to school. You know where they send their children to? Odo? You know where they send their children to?
Where?
Outside to go and learn. Why do they send them there? Ask him. Odo? You ask him, why do they send them there? Just ask him. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie. Auntie and punches there. Don't go there. All right, Neokai is in Achimota. Neokai, Happy New Year. What's on your mind?
Happy New Year too. You see, I want to contribute towards this debate and to particularly respond to what Reimagining has been saying all the time. I think he is suffering from what has always been the position of the University of Ghana. Okay, like to say that the universities should train thinkers is to suggest that
if somebody is a carpenter, he doesn't think. But you see, the issue of thinking comes from a brain. Now, what I want to suggest, and I do acknowledge the fact that some people are well endowed in the use of the brain more than, for instance, the use of the leg. And I will not suggest that a professor in a university will play football better than, let's say, Messi. You understand? Or suggest that Messi can be a professor in a university just because he's a good. You understand what I'm saying? But I think what the minister is saying is to present a challenge to the university. Now let's expand the scope. For instance, I would not want my daughter to go to a university and be given, like that song says, Agbaja intense. You see, make whatever is being taught.
Why not? Neo, can you help us understand why you would not want your daughter to be given that course?
Well, what you have to understand is that we are all not carpenters. We are all not endowed to be journalists. So everybody has abilities everywhere. Okay? So let's expand the debate and say that let's not think that because somebody cannot be a professor, then he's not a thinker. Do you know that this country still imports football coaches?
Okay.
Do you know that we still pay dollars to football coaches?
Okay, Ni. Thank you for making your point. I don't think anyone here has said that if you don't go to university, you're not a thinker. But there are ways of thinking, there are different ways of thinking. Some of them you have to be taught. And a university is supposed to be able to teach you some of those ways of thinking. That's it. All right. Bright is calling us from University of Ghana. And of course, don't forget, you can call us too. We want to know about your experience in university. If you've been to university, what was your experience? Why did you choose the first degree course that you chose? And has it helped you in the job market? What do you think of what the education minister is calling for? Bright is calling us from Legon. Bright, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for calling
question. I'm calling from East Legon, not University of Ghana.
I see. Forgive us.
Very good. It's so pathetic hearing the education minister, whom we are made to believe is a technocrat when it comes to education sector, speaks the way he did yesterday. Very, very saddening and pathetic. Even look at the timing. Students are being admitted to the various universities. And as I speak yesterday, I had calls from 3 students who had admission at University of Ghana, seriously contemplating about the kind of courses they were given and if it was worthwhile for them to go and pursue such courses. You have to encourage them. I'd encourage them and make them know that the essence of first degree is not directly just to push you into the job market, but it's intended to give you that critical mindset that when you enter the university community, you come out with your education, you'll be able to adduce critical mindset and be able to solve problems around you. In such a situation, you should be able to look out or look at the opportunities around you and then delve into the job market and begin to do something yourself. Look at the situation we are faced with today. We have been told that some of the courses are not relevant to our contemporary developmental needs. So which ones are they talking about? If they talk about nursing, a number of our sisters, brothers have been to the universities. They have read first degree at University of Ghana Nursing School. They are home today looking for jobs. Those who have even read banking and finance, they are still moving with their certificates. Banks have been collapsed. The jobs are not there. Which particular area are they now recommending students to go and then pursue their various distance? While at Legon, years back, we had mates who even read theater arts. They were the first to land jobs at the banks.
Good point. Thank you, Bright. Thanks for sharing. Let's see if we can take a few more calls. Richard is in Accra. Hi, Richard. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for calling us.
I have some few thoughts to put across. One, I would like to find out what the
Richard, can you switch off your radio or move away from it? There's a bit of a feedback coming through.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope it's better.
I think it is now. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. So I would like to know what is leadership, and then who is a leader. Then the third one, the doctorate the education minister is holding, is it in education or any other thing? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard, for asking your 3 questions. Nuruddin is in Tamale. Nuruddin, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kojo.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard what the minister said, I really felt quite bad, particularly because some of the courses he mentioned, I'll probably just take the development education, for instance. The content of that particular program, the course outline, train people to become behavioral change communicators. And when you look at how we eradicated, what's the name, open defecation, for instance, you need professionals who can conscientize rural communities to change their behaviors towards a positive lifestyle. So for the minister who should really encourage people or look at the content to do a critical evaluation, to just look at the title of a course and speak so shallow, it is so appalling and disappointing that you have such a person as a minister. And honestly, if he can't give critical input to universities, then what is he doing as a minister? There are no food at senior high schools. Your contribution towards development of tertiary education is quite appalling. So then what are you doing as a minister? It's really unfortunate.
Thank you, Nuruddin. Thank you very much for raising these questions. Ken is in Kumasi. Ken, how are you?
Could you bless you? How are you?
Small, we did.
Tell me this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Apart from medicine, education, and then maybe nursing, which other course prepare the individual for the job market? Some year, I think that was last year. We all here, we heard that some of the courses in our tertiary or universities are not even accredited. Ghana, okay, sometimes you think and then you think you not get a solution to what you're even thinking about. Our educational system is made in such a way that we prepare people to remember, to recall, but not to think. So who else is to come out and then produce something? We can't think. We lack the ability to reason or to think. And then about what Mamazi was saying, Ghana is getting to a point that some of us, we just talk and then it gets nowhere. You told me to bring my son to a school to be educated. I don't think he will not get food to eat. Give me the chance, okay, to feed my son or my ward. And you told me no, you not allow me to do that one too. But we are all teachers, we know what is happening. Just that we can't talk about it. Our mouths are kept seized that you can't even voice out. We are all aware of what is happening in our SHS. There is no food for these people. God should save Ghana.
Amen. Thank you, Ken. Let's come to Dan Suman. Hi, John. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Not bad at all, John. Oh, gosh, you sound awake.
Excellent. I actually like this very discussion we're having. I think it's one of the best discussions I've actually listened on the show the entire of this week.
Thank you.
When I first listened to the minister talking, in fact, let me frame it like this. When I first listened to the person talking, I was very happy, thinking that it's an ordinary civilian who was talking. So I thought a colleague, a primary school child, or somebody who was talking, I said, correct, this is a good comment. Only to find out that this is the Minister of Education complaining. Goodness. I think complaining in government has become an infectious disease. It started from the top and just cascading. If somebody like this is complaining, it simply means that we should close down all the universities and go home because there is no hope. For goodness sake, when this man, I think I liked this man some long time ago, even before he came to Ghana to become a minister. I was very happy. I think it was the same Joy News that granted him an interview, and he was showcasing some of the things he was doing in the U.S. You see, sometimes when we go out for foreign exposure, we only enjoy the system, but we don't take time to really understand the system. You see, this is a problem we have. Somebody goes to spend time abroad, we bring him, come and take up this position, and it's becoming a canker in this country. Immediately the person has a foreign exposure, we neglect all the local people who understand the local context, and then we bring just anybody at all. Look at it. It is so clear. And this is the problem we're having. It is not just in the Ministry of Education. It is actually something spreading all around. Complaining, like the Agri Minister was doing. Complaining the prices of things are rising because people are taking advantage of the system. Which system? The one that you have created. I think it's enough. Your discussion is just very good. And I'm very sure that this is getting directly to his personal assistant, to his secretary's ears to advise him for 1 minute. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
John, drink some water, eh? Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness.
John.
I love John. All right, let's talk to Kofi in Kumasi. Hi, Kofi. Good morning.
Hi, Kojos.
Hey, Kofi.
Handsome
How are you?
Kojos.
Hey, you again. Happy New Year.
Same to you, Kojo. You have brought Asem. What the Asem Baba? See, we are talking about students being trained to, fit job market. Let's ask this government. Let's ask the minister. His government. How many jobs have they created since they assumed office? Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. How many? You have not created a single job. A single. So you want the students to be trained for the market. Which market? Look, sometimes some people are put in positions, and when they being in that position, they think everybody else is I don't know how they look at anybody else. You were in America. You were told that you have established schools in America and whatnot. You have opened a university in Ghana here. So what training is your university giving to the youth? And when they come out of your school, what job is available for them? You should think about the availability of jobs for the students and not the training.
It's not easy. Thank you, Kofi. Thank you. I feel your frustration. Ivan is in Medina. Ivan, you're our last caller. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Ivan. Thank you for calling.
How is Mama Vi?
Mama Vi is right here.
I'm doing all right.
Thank you. I think the university education broadens one's horizon, one's scope. And if I bring it to myself, from the A level, I wanted to do medicine. I failed chemistry round 1, so I did not get. And then I changed the course to Agric. The University of Ghana campus, that time Agric was 4 years. I don't know what course we didn't do in the university in Agric. Microbiology, nutrition, statistics, chemistry, biology, and all those things. Year 4, I majored in Agric protection, dermatology, entomology, pathology, all those things. That is one Agric. I did all those things. Finally, in my working, I became a statistician for 2 years, WHO. I worked with Shell Chemicals before. Finally, for over 30 years, I became an international procurement consultant. When you go to PPA, or Public Procurement Authority, Ivan Ofer, they will tell you. So, university education, I believe, is something that broadens one's horizon for the world. That is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. And I love that practical example that Ivan has given of where it starts and where it can end. And this idea that there is no job waiting for you because of the title of the program you are studying. Because that's all he was basing his analysis on, the title of the programs. Development education. What job is waiting for you? Hey, that's not how it works. In fact, right, you even if the person does physics, what job is waiting for him?
Come to think of
Or
it,
mathematics,
that
what job is waiting for him?
The presumption is that you automatically become a
Or
physicist.
economics, what job is waiting for him?
Yeah, you become
You
the
work with the
Minister
Ministry of Finance.
Charlie. The analysis has to be a bit deeper than that.
That's actually my conclusion on this one. That when the man who is in charge of education policy in this country speaks on education matters, and I'm not saying most of the time, Minister Yao Osei Educhum is spot on with his education analysis. This one, I don't think it went as well as he would have thought it should go. But it gives an opportunity as a state to reimagine the classroom and our education sector. The world is moving. We can still teach philosophy today and make it meaningful and realistic to the thoughts. People like Michael Sandberg and co are teaching it elsewhere, and it's really, really taught properly.
Yeah.
We are struggling as a country with our direction, values, what we think of freedoms, what we think of human rights, and all of that. It doesn't make those ones less important than other courses, merely because we think so.
Exactly.
Again, we can actually make sure that we evolve our classrooms and our teaching systems in ways that make sense. I always complain that the first time in my life I had one-on-one tutorial for more than 4 hours a day was in a different school outside of this country. I did not like it.
One-on-one, 4 hours.
It was question and answer. You answer, she reviews, she gives you feedback, then on the spot. So if you have not fully prepared, you only have to say our connection is not good enough.
What was the class size? You know, a former lecturer of mine, George Asare Free, says the class size is an issue.
It's a big issue. There was a point in time that in the University of Ghana, a single political science class was over 1,000 students. When Dr. Buame taught entrepreneurship, the class was more than 1,600 at a time. I mostly say that all that I heard in that class was why he.
Sorry, 1,000 what?
600. If you don't get that, you don't get. You don't need to sign up.
That's what I started by talking about.
That's not a class.
You know,
that's a stadium.
I started by talking about looking at our class sizes too, because when I was at the university, I mean, if we a large class split into 3, sometimes 4, giving to 4 different lecturers, they'll come together, set the questions, you come and write the exam. If you go to UPSA today, for instance, they've decided that no class would be more than 55. So if you're more than 55, they would split you into 2, just to make sure that the lecturers would have more contact hours with the students, and that's something we should also look at, because
those conversations we can have.
To be very honest with
I
you,
think those are more relevant.
To be very honest with you, I mean, like I started by saying, if you ask me to teach 1,000 students, I'll set objectives for them. I can't mark all
Imagine a script
I can't
that
mark them.
And you're teaching first year to 4th year.
And
Yeah, but what would they be learning with objectives?
Yes, and that's the problem. So it is part of the problem. It is not the course for itself.
It's not the title of the course.
The course.
Yeah. It's the content
Sometimes
of it.
you have to look at even the content and contact hours. The contact hours will indicate what challenges you're going through. I mean, I took a course where there were 6 students in Ghana here. Masa, that course. Oh,
You suffer.
Fantastic. We didn't suffer.
I'm saying that if you're not fully prepared, for example, for a class, you can't hide because the teacher will get you fully engaged. They'll have time for you. They'll identify your difficulties and deal with you on a personal level.
I never liked literature until I met Professor Kojo Opoku-Agyeman. We were only 15 in the class. He had time for every student, and so you would understand everything before you leave the classroom. Let us begin to consider these things. We can also change the content, but
improve the content, make it more relevant.
But this whole idea of there are some jobs that are waiting for specific programs and courses. My guy, Education Minister, stop that.
Before you wrap up, Kojo, there's a single point I wanted to make about these things that we do to our classrooms and all the things that are required. You see, let's not pretend. We are telling the schools that charge 15%. The school says we can only run with 40%. School fees increment. Government consistently does not pay up on subventions to the schools. Even SHS, they don't pay how much more, what they call it, the higher schools. And yet, we still are insisting on the best of standards for them. How would they be ranking very high? You think about it.
Yeah. Look, it's not about the title of the program. There are people studying philosophy in universities abroad, and the conversations they are having, or psychology, the conversations they are having in their lecture theaters are about current. You apply
Economics.
psychology to social media.
Yeah.
You apply psychology to crime fighting, things that are relevant, so that when the person comes out, they fit anywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, there's military psychology. Look, it's how you teach it to. It's the content too. Okay, so the contact hours and the look. It's not about the title of the anyone who comes to say that the title of this program will not get you a job. How can you even be a player in the education sector and say that? Look, let me tell you this. Next week on the Super Morning Show, we're going to deal with these SHSs and the lack of food.
Yeah.
These are
because
people's
that's
children.
Apparently, it's a
These
very
are
big issue.
people's
Our
children.
our nieces, our
People's
nephews.
children. And I made the point that if you try and interview a head teacher today about it, they can't speak. They can't speak. They will clam up. They can't speak. Meanwhile, these are people's children. Can you imagine me? I've sent my child to school and you are starving my child just so that you can look good politically? No. We'll deal with it. We'll bring evidence. You hear from parents who are shipping food to other cities to feed their children. You hear from children. We will get you the people to tell you the truth. If the teachers can't talk because they are afraid of being transferred, we'll bring you the reality from those who are most affected by it right here on the Super Morning Show. Don't miss it next week.